When do you start to feel the Ozempic and when do you start to feel Zepbound? Hi, beautiful friends. I'm Elizabeth, Countess of Shopping. I have been on GLP-1 medication the last almost 2 years, just about a week or two shy of being on my 2-year anniversary, having lost over 101 pounds with Zepbound and Mounjaro and Tirzepatide compound. The combination of those is because of the different shortages. And on today's episode, I get asked a ton of how long does it take to start to feel the Ozempic or feel the Zepbound or feel the Mounjaro or feel the Tirzepatide or semaglutide? And so on today's episode, I'm lumping them all together, GLP-1 medications together. But Ozempic is for type 2 diabetes, FDA approval for type 2 diabetes. Mounjaro is FDA type 2 for diabetes. Two different medications from two different manufacturers. And then we have the weight loss component. Same things, Ozempic and WEGOVY are the same thing, but WEGOVY is for FDA approval for chronic obesity management. So I don't want people to get confused with my vernacular of saying Ozempic and then crossing over to Zepbound, which is two different companies and for two different FDA approvals. Both are GLP-1 medications, slightly different data on there. And so if you're just starting your GLP-1 journey or you're looking to figure out if you're even just started or haven't even started yet, but are looking for information, I got you covered. I have a ton of free stuff in my description, so click that link in the description, particularly for your Zepbound checklist and Zepbound tracker, which is also applicable for my Ozempic friends, my WEGOVY friends, and my semaglutide friends. Let's dive in. This is my experience, strength, and hope. I am not a healthcare provider. I'm going to be referring you to the best healthcare provider and telehealth provider, but for me, this is what has worked for me over the last 2 years. And 2 years ago, when I started being morbidly obese, people are like, you're going to have 5 heads for taking GLP-1 medication. A very reputable doctor here on YouTube is like, don't take that junk. And it's been the best, most life-changing thing for me. And so when I first started taking originally Mounjaro 2.5 milligrams, the starting dose, which is the same thing as Zepbound 2.5 milligrams starting dose, which would be the equivalent to Ozempic starting dose or WEGOVY starting dose, or if you're on compounds, I felt it within the first 12 hours. And that was originally. Still to this day, almost 2 years later, I still feel the effects of GLP-1 medications start at around the 12-hour mark. Really, though, for most people, it's 24 for Ozempic, 24 to 72 hours. So the first day to third day. And I like to ride the wave of appetite suppression and ride the wave of the effects of it. So to me, it's like surfing. Anybody surf out there? I love to surf. When we go to the Outer Banks, I do like to surf. And this last year, I didn't get to go surfing, and I can't wait for the summer to go surfing. But riding the wave of appetite suppression within this with my not so artistic picture, but hopefully will give you the illustration of what I felt. Now, you very well are going to feel differently because your body is different than mine. Obesity, for chronic obesity management, there's obesity on a spectrum is different. My blood sugars are different too. And so for my type 2 diabetes friends, we are going to have different reactions. But this is my experience, strength, and hope. I want you to track yours though with the link down in the description below on countessofshopping.com. I have a free side effects tracker. On there, you can track on the printable or in your, where's my phone? On your phone, I just want you to track some sort of method for the next 2 months. So the next 8 shots once a week, the next 8 shots, track your data to see what works best for you for when you start to feel it. So for me, it's in that 12-hour mark. For me, it's 12 hours to 48 hours. But statistically speaking, for Ozempic, it is 1 day to 3 days, then 24 to 72 hours. And then you start to kind of crest down. The half-life dose, and this is the important part of it, of half-life dose for Ozempic is actually 7 days. And so for Ozempic and WEGOVY is 7 days for the half-life dose, meaning you have the time it takes for half, 50%, to be removed from your system and in your body or from your body. And so for Zepbound and Mounjaro folks, which is a Tirzepatide, it's a slightly higher GLP-1. It has a third hormone, whereas Ozempic and WEGOVY have 2 hormones, Mounjaro and Zepbound and Tirzepatide 3. And so within that, the half-life dose, again, I'm not medical at all, but knowing what the literature tells us, for Ozempic and Mounjaro, it's actually 5 days. And so within that, we know that it's 50% is out of our body. It makes sense? And so that's what, hence half-life dose. And so within that, it's slightly different between Ozempic and WEGOVY versus Mounjaro and Zepbound, but still nonetheless the effects that I feel during that time frame, and how to best maximize that, particularly if you're paying out of pocket. How do we best maximize our investment and our dollars and our health from that? Well, first for me, making sure you have a reputable telehealth company. I am obsessed with Join Fridays. You can use the discount code QUEEN. That is who I have gotten my prescription from since October 2023. Actually, it was before that I started talking to them in the late summer of 2023. It's been a while, and they have been reputable, wonderful. They prescribe both brand names like WEGOVY and Zepbound, and also do compounds like semaglutide. And so you have the option to do both. You can go through your healthcare company with that as well for filling your prescription, or you can go with the compound with semaglutide on there. They are fantastic. And also included in their bundles is continuous education, particularly with group coaching with their dietitian, twice a week calls on there. So it's not just like getting schlepped medication. There's actually a whole support and structure with it that I very much recommend. People who tell me, someone just DM'd me on Instagram, on Countess of Shopping Instagram, was like, my healthcare provider gives me no instruction, and what should I do to titrate up? I'm like, don't ask me, I'm not medical. You need to ask your healthcare provider, who should be having you do blood panels, who should be knowing all of your medical conditions. That's part of having a reputable telehealth company prescribing your medication, like Join Fridays. And so I want to encourage you asking some of these questions too. They have where you can do video chats, or because I've been on the medication for so long, for me, it's just a refill now. I'm on the highest possible dose of Zepbound, 15 milligrams. Like, there's nowhere else for me to go at all on the marketplace until, hopefully, fingers crossed, CagriSema comes out later on in 2025. So with that information, I can just do refills that way. But for people who, and I'm probably the exception to the rule with that because I've been on it so long, but if you're just starting or titrating up, you have these amazing video chats with a telehealth provider, and they help work to what prescription and dose and all of that stuff that's specific for you. They have made me do blood panels, which I appreciate. I appreciate that, because we need to know that, I mean, hello, this is a medication. So use the discount code QUEEN, and with that information, then I can ask them specific questions, but utilize the data, my data, for my benefit. And so on countessofshopping.com, my free resource for you, it has on there the tracker that you can use. Again, do it for at least 8 injections, at least 2 months, because then you're going to start seeing patterns with it. You may, because I didn't, and if you're hearing this part, this is the important part. For me, on Zepbound and Mounjaro and Tirzepatide, but it's equivalent with OZEMPIC, WEGOVY, and semaglutide, I feel differently with different site locations. Some people want to fight me on this, but that is my experience, strength, and hope. Yours very well may be different. Some people are like, I feel nothing. But now, having had thousands and thousands and thousands of people in my awesome free encouragement group, which is also linked in the description, have told me that they have felt different things. Now, whether your belly button is the best source of injection spot or the worst varies. But most people, generally speaking, from my perspective of talking and listening to thousands of people, have a sweet spot. Out of one of those 3 injections, either the back of our arm, the upper thigh, or near our belly button, follow the literature in which Ozempic tells you, or follow the literature in which Eli Lilly with Zepbound or Mounjaro gives you. Having that knowledge that I would feel differently, for me, the back of my arm feels way differently in terms of side effects, in terms of tiredness, the fatigue that I get, like Zepbound fatigue, and also in terms of weight loss. Because if I'm having more side effects, generally speaking, I'll lose more weight that week. That is for me. You do you, but that is my experience, strength, and hope. And so for me, I love to use electrolytes, like LMNT electrolytes. They've given us 8 free sticks with any purchase. Having electrolytes on days where I feel more side effects, very helpful. Typically day 0, so the day before my shot, day 1, day 2, and day 3. I'm always making sure I'm having my electrolytes with that to help with side effects. Diarrhea, constipation, nausea, or vomiting are the 4 most common gastrointestinal ones. And so that has been really, really helpful for me to counterbalance, like, the 1-2 punch of side effects, but also being really tired. And so utilizing those to my benefit when I'm riding this wave of appetite suppression is I'm eating less. And if I'm eating less, for me, less calorie, being in a calorie deficit, I'm gonna lose weight. Now, obviously, if it's getting to that extreme point of like, I don't know, I'm not eating enough food or things like that, that's where you need to talk to and having a really reputable telehealth care provider, in my humble opinion, like Join Fridays, use the discount code QUEEN. Why that is so beneficial? Because if it's happening week after week after week, and for me, where I'm like, I'm not eating enough. That was at the beginning. I wish that would have been my story for the last 2 years, that I continued with that, but it hasn't been. I got my appetite back. My body became more acclimated, hence the titrating up to different doses. Now I've titrated up to the highest possible dose and there's nowhere else for me to go, and that's a horse of a color for another day. But utilizing this of when I'm not hungry, I am experiencing side effects, like if I'm feeling nauseous, I'm not gonna eat a ton of food. Right? Facts. And so utilizing this period, this window to my benefit. Now, the other thing to utilize best, because we're going to maximize our time, our money, our resources most efficiently on our investment of our health and the financial investment of getting these pens of Ozempic or Mounjaro or WEGOVY or whatever you're on for GLP-1 medication, is in this, I will look at my planner. I literally pull out my phone and see, okay, do I have anything important going on for work or personally? Does my kid have his major choral concert during the first 24 hours after I've taken my shot? If it is, I need to be more gingerly with myself for other work appointments, other personal appointments, so I'm not overwhelming myself, particularly if I'm titrating up during that time. If I'm titrating up during that time, yeah, that is a problemo, because for me, when I titrate up dose, I can guarantee in this pocket, I'm gonna feel a lot worse than just being on my regular doses, right? So if I'm going, for example, from the starting dose of Ozempic to the next dose on there, I'm gonna feel differently. Zepbound 2.5 milligrams different than Zepbound 5 milligrams. It's gonna feel differently for me. And so for you, that's why tracking matters, because you can go back to your data of, was it in the back of my arm? Was it in near my belly button or my thigh? And is that a continuous pattern recognition? Start to figure out the pattern recognition of it within that window and then within the side effects. Now, when I titrate up, I've said this before, I'll say it again, just because I've had one side effect on one dose, when I change doses, doesn't mean I'm not gonna have another side effect with that. For me, on Zepbound, I had never had, and Mounjaro, I had not had vomiting or nausea until I got to Zepbound 15 milligrams. And then I've actually have vomited twice now and have had nausea. And usually I have a pretty ironclad stomach. So the fact that I did actually throw up twice was a little bit like, but watching this, feeling it within the first 12 hours and really feeling it for me in 24 to 36 hours, that's where I'm really feeling more tired. I need to go to bed earlier. We're having our roof worked on. So happy New Year. We haven't changed out of our clothes because of the New Year. We're still in New Year's mode here. And then we're also having our roof fixed as well. But I was not going to give you a daily video today for a Countess shopping community. But with this, knowing that 24 to 36 hour period is the sweet spot, and really monitoring for me my calories with that, because we know that there has to be a calorie deficit to lose weight. And that is really important, of like being like, oh, and sometimes I forget. Do you guys have this of where sometimes I just forget and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm not gonna be eating as much food. That still feels very foreign to me. From somebody with obesity management, like, oh yeah, I don't have to continuously eat. It's okay to pause on that, because I'm gonna get my appetite back. On Ozempic, on Zepbound and Mounjaro, I'm gonna get my appetite back really on day 6 and 7, because the half-life dose is on day 5. So day 5, 6, 7, I am much more hungry. I'm hungrier on those days than I am on day 2, like the 12-hour mark into the 48-hour mark. Now for Ozempic, it's day 1 through, so it's 24 hours to 72 hours. That's really the sweet spot, statistically speaking. And so their half-life dose for Ozempic and Wegovy is 7 days. So slightly different in terms of that appetite suppression and how much food I have consumed on Zepbound and Mounjaro. I don't have experience, strength, and hope with Ozempic or Wegovy, but going from the data, it's GLP-1s, I mean, they're similar, they're different, but they're similar, right? And so, which is why we have so many people in the Countess of shopping community, because we're different, but we're similar. And so with that, knowing that that appetite suppression, really and truly, like reminding myself of, I don't have to eat as much because the medication is, I'm fuller. I'm having that appetite suppression. And for me then, taking this a step further, has now become working on my mindset. But it's about the physical, but then the mental component of it of like, oh, I don't have to eat as much. My body is not requiring a third helping. And I went from 3 portion sizes this way to 1 small plate. That is okay. Now, where it becomes an issue, and I know someone's going to write in the comments, but what I'm not meaning is like eating disorder type stuff, or of where you're continuously eating under calorie. That's obviously not a good thing, which is obviously why you need to talk to your healthcare provider about that. If there's questions of, I'm not having enough appetite suppression, or I'm having too much, that's where you and your healthcare provider, which is why I love Join Fridays, use the discount code QUEEN, matters. If you're not having appetite suppression, perhaps going up on the next dose when it's time to reevaluate what dose to go on. So for obesity management, WEGOVY or Zepbound, titrating up to that next dose, right? And I think also for me, one of the things looking back, because I have the data, because I use my free tracker on countessshopping.com with that Zepbound checklist and the Zepbound tracker, side effects tracker, which you can apply for Ozempic and WEGOVY, friends, having the data to show week after week after week, month after month after month, was very helpful in terms of then being able to work on food choices, protein, how many grams of protein to eat. If you're like, I don't even know what to eat, watch my What I Eat in a Day videos. Watch my interview with a dietitian, a GLP-1 dietitian. Take what you want and leave the rest, but those, like, I have a ton of meals. I have a Chipotle, what I pick out for GLP-1 medication, a Panda Express, what I pick out, and like a ton of stuff here. There's literally over like 500 videos on GLP-1 medication. You can binge watch all of them. I know many of you guys do, which I appreciate. Thank you. And so riding that wave of when you feel it to then when you start implementing the food. And also during that time frame too, I haven't really touched on this, but I think it is important because I've now been on this journey for 2 years, a little almost in a little short period of time, it'll be 2 years. I could not work on the physical activity side. It was just enough for me to be like, okay, I'm making these food changes and I'm making these portion changes, and what does protein look like, and how do I eat fruits and vegetables, and what is like, then how do I counterbalance that, the side effects of diarrhea, nausea, constipation, vomiting with eating this new way of life. And for me now, that has taken a while. So give yourself extra grace. If you're like, oh my God, I don't know what to do, it's okay. It's okay. It's going to take a hot second. For me, it was decades of unwinding all of this like toxic stuff and making it healed. And then working through the healing process has taken some time to unwind, and still is, to be brutally honest with myself. I still have stuff I'm continuing to work on. I'm not there yet, but I'm really, really have worked very hard to get, excuse me, in a healthier spot with it too, which is important. Now, I do think it's also really, really important to mention with this, the physical activity side of, I was not walking, like now every day I walk 2 to 6 miles. I lift. I'm in a new program, which is one of the reasons why I didn't feel like putting on makeup and hair. Is I'm going to go lift right after this. I'm in a new lift. I have a lifting coach, which is crazy, by the way. I'm like, I have a lifting coach. And so I'm really excited about this, but I couldn't do that when I first started. So if you just are starting Ozempic or WEGOVY or Zepbound or Mounjaro, for me, it was all that I could do just to focus in on the food. That alone to me was completely overwhelming. So if you feel overwhelmed, one step at a time, baby, one step at a time, and see how you feel through tracking your data. Track your data of the injection site, the day that you did it, the time of day that you did it, and then when you started to feel it. So then you can figure out the cadence and rhythm in which that shot, it's going to make a difference for you. So I hope that all this information helps you as much as it's helped me. Learning this, there was nothing. Like when I first started 2 years ago, there was like, oh, okay, here you go. And so teaming up with Join Fridays, I very much appreciate how much, from going from my primary care doctor who's dealing with flu and strep throat and cold, she didn't have time to help me with my all the things that needed to be helped with GLP-1 medication, switching over to the leading expert Join Fridays in the telehealth space for obesity management. Huge, 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 huge. But also they do compounds as well. So if you're like, I can't afford brand name, okay, great. Then talk to them about compounds. It is awesome. And the way that they've structured their plan, to me, that's why they're the leader in the industry, because so much stuff happens literally on a daily basis. And the GLP-1 community stuff is changing so much. That is why having somebody who focuses in specifically on GLP-1 medication matters. and somebody that I trust so much. I mean, I trust my health with them, you know what I mean? Which is my life. Like, health is my life. And so I want to encourage you, if you're looking to switch telehealth companies or to get compounds, because you're like, my insurance company's dropping me. Hello, they do semaglutide, which is fantastic. So track your data. A track number grows. And if you don't know what your data is, you're going to be screwing yourself, and you don't need to be. You don't need to be. Now, other side effects that I do always like to talk about, that I made the blundering mistake of taking a different magnesium when I first started switching over to Bioptimizers. Their magnesium breakthrough, use the discount code QUEEN, it's linked down below, made a huge difference in constipation, sleep, leg cramps. It matters. It matters. It matters. It matters. It matters. And I have the data to prove it with my Oura Ring tracking my sleep too. So, my sweet friends, your accountability question of the day: what are you doing today to help move you closer to your goals? Tell me down in the comments below. Number 2, your emoji of the day today is going to be an apple, because an apple a day. Does it keep the doctor away? Does it really? I don't know, but it's your reminder to get some fiber in. Are you eating enough fruits and vegetables too? So people are like, I have blowout constipation. I'm like, how much, fruits and vegetables are you eating? And they're like, nothing. And I'm like, maybe get some fiber in. Maybe just try 2 cups of leafy green vegetables and see how quickly that constipation goes away. But our emoji of the day is an apple. I do emoji of the day. It helps for me to get to know you better, because I truly do care. It's like our bat signal to each other, that you've watched this far, and I'm like, okay, that person, I like them a lot. If you've consumed this much of my content, then you hopefully like my stuff too. So, and I will also pray over you. If you don't believe in prayer, I'll uplift you in positive thought. So I love you guys so super much. Tell me down below your questions. If you have more questions, I'm happy to do other follow-up videos on this, because I've done, with 500 GLP-1 videos, I probably have already done your video topic. However, so much has changed for me from a year and a half ago to now, and the market has changed. I mean, hello, Zepbound wasn't even invented yet in terms of being on the market. I mean, it's the same thing as Mounjaro, different FDA approvals, but when I first started. You see what I'm saying? So like, and Kagorisima, honey, let's go watch that video on my playlist. If you haven't watched that, oh, it's exciting times. Exciting times ahead for 2025. My sweet friends, be kind to yourself, be kind to others. I'm Countess of Shopping. Count my blessings, because life is delicious. Click the like, subscribe button. If you've got a GLP-1 bestie, share this video with them. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Bye, friends.